All right, welcome back to This Week in Mythic Plus, where we talk about everything that's happened this week in Mythic Plus. So before we get started, kind of talking about what's been going on the past couple days, I just wanted to shout out the VOD review that we've been doing. So basically, every Monday we're going to be doing a strategy VOD review throughout the month of April on Mondays, kind of talking about how you and your group can actually look to improve just in Mythic Plus in general. We had a great turnout for the first day. I think we had about 5 people's VODs that we were able to review. So if you're looking for that, I will leave that down in the description as well, and you can sign up. Again, this is ideally not going to be pugs. This is not going to be like an individual like log review style. This is more of like an overall strategy review and teaching people how to just like get better as a group at Mythic Plus. Whether your goal is, do 10s as a group, or whether your goal is to get the rank 1 achievement, we can kind of talk through some of the ways that you can be looking to improve. Okay, let's talk about what we've seen this week in Mythic Plus. I think by far the most commonly talked about thing is Oracle Disc Priest, and I'm going to be frank, I think that Disc is a little bit OP. Actually, it might be a lot of it OP. The problem is there's no great way of nerfing it without completely killing off the Oracle playstyle. So what Oracle does is it is able to grant, and that with Power Word Shield talents, there's like 5 Power Word Shield talents. They stack multiplicatively on top of one another, and they are able to shield you on like a 6-second cooldown for at least like 3.5 million, but sometimes it can even crit and be as high as like 7 million health shields. There's also the Oracle Shield ability, which applies a 25% DR to you at the exact same time of which you have a shield. So, Disc Priest has become pretty much the dominant healer, where we actually are seeing actually a decent amount of healers that are in the top 10. We have 4 healer specs that are within the top 10, but Disc Priest, especially once you start playing with them, they are noticeably better. Whenever we start to look at meta statistics, Discipline Priest, they were kind of just chugging along at 60%. They were seeming like they were the best. Mistweaver caught a nerf. Discipline Priest caught this new build, and now everybody's kind of on Disc Priest over the last week or so. So Disc is kind of insane. It has a lot of people questioning where is the class tuning. In addition to that, like, what would you nerf about Disc, and should Disc get nerfed? So where's the class tuning? I have no idea. It'll probably happen on 11.1.5 if I had to guess. I was surprised that it didn't happen this week or this last week. I'm going to be honest with you guys, because that's about the timing that they're looking for. Maybe they give it like 2 weeks until 11.1.5 and they hit us with class tuning. I also wouldn't be shocked if class tuning happens this week. Are they going to nerf Oracle Disc? I would honestly say it's probably around a 50% chance they nerf it, a 50% chance they don't. Blizzard doesn't always try to interfere with things that are related to Mythic Plus. Oracle is played in Raid, but it's not played for the exact same reasons that it's played in Mythic Plus. It's played because it's just the best atonement spreader in Raid. And as we know, if it's not OP in Raid, then Blizzard isn't always quick to nerf it. But for Mythic Plus, they do tend to, and this is the reason that I think that they are likely to nerf it. First off, it's the best. And secondly, it's this play style that Blizzard doesn't love, like over shielding and being able to just completely negate mechanics just with shielding. And so, we've seen this with Spirit Shell in the past. Blizzard doesn't really like that playstyle just in general. And so they're normally a little bit quick on the trigger to kind of nerf these kind of things. A lot of people that I know that are not healers have actually been enjoying playing with Discipline Priests in their group because it feels so comfy. And the people that I know that hate this version of Disc are pretty much every other healer, right? Because they feel like they're being boxed out of the meta by a specialization that is quite strong. I don't know how you're supposed to nerf it. That is fair, because something like 10% off Power Word Shield probably doesn't fix the issue, that the fact that they just shield you for all of your HP. There are downsides to playing Discipline Priest, especially with this Oracle build. The fact that they do like 0 damage. Mistweaver is contributing, 1 million plus overall in a dungeon. A Disc Priest, even whenever you're factoring in Power Infusion, is probably like 600, 700, 800k at the most. So there are still pretty tremendous downsides of Disc Priest. The fact that they do absolutely 0 damage is the majority of them. And you are seeing other healers in the top couple of runs. So I think that Disc needs to get nerfed. I don't know how I would necessarily do it. Looking at the other meta specializations, we're actually starting to see a little bit of consolidation on the meta, where the top couple of specializations are forming, primarily some flavor of Mage, Unholy DK, and Balanced Druid. We've actually started to see other specs of Mage emerge, where people are playing Frost and Arcane occasionally. Fire is obviously still the most popular flavor of Mage, but not the only specialization of Mage that's being played. I'm a little bit surprised that the meta is consolidating this hard for DPS. I think that there are probably 8 to 10 specializations that I think are absolutely excellent, including but not limited to balance. I think Demonology Warlock is okay. I think that Devastation Evoker is insane. I think that Ellie Shaman. I think that Enhancement Shaman. I think that Fire and Frost Mage. I think that Feral Druid. I think that Ret. I think that Unholy DK. I think that Havoc Demon Hunter. All of those specs I think are absolutely excellent. And so I'm kind of surprised seeing the meta just simplify down into a state where it's just a couple of specializations, especially since I'm not actually sure that these 3 specs are realistically the best thing that you can be doing. I'm surprised that we're not actually seeing something like more DPS Shaman specializations. I think that Enhancement Shaman is absolutely insane, and particularly, is that the best? Is Mage really the best Bloodlust that we could be bringing? Is something like an Enhancement Shaman really going to be better? Mage has great priority damage. Arcane has good funnel if you're looking to play Arcane for some reason. But in general, most of the specializations of Mage have good priority damage, but so does Enhance. Really makes you think. I'm kind of interested in seeing how the meta evolves. Something that we also have kind of up on the horizon as well is we have the TGP, and that starts at the very beginning of March. Time trials for that, I think, start in like a week or two. And so that's going to be something where I think that we're going to really start to see what the absolute top tier strats are for a lot of the dungeons. And I think that we're going to really start to see the knowledge game for Mythic Plus accelerate a lot. The last role that we have to talk about is Tank. And Tank has been kind of interesting. Here we have Vengeance occupying 83% of the metagame. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, even though Vengeance is occupying such a large percentage of the metagame, I've played with other specializations. I've played with Blood DK at a high level. I've played with Prot Warrior. I've played with Prot Paladin, all at a high level. And I think that all 3 of those specializations are excellent. I think that it's one of those things that Vengeance is the easiest tank to play at a high level, and people are pretty familiar with Vengeance, especially since it was popular Dragonflight. And so I think that people are kind of quick to be able to pick up Vengeance, and it's really easy to play high keys with Vengeance. You have this cheat death, you have a lot of utility that is available to you, but I think that there are other valuable options. And while it's occupying more of a metagame share than a Disc Priest, for example, I don't think that Vengeance is as dominant for tank specs as Disc Priest is for healer specializations. I do think that there are a lot of other options, and honestly, I actually really like playing with Protection Warrior. I think that Protection Warrior is great, but it's pretty undeniable how just dominant Vengeance kind of is in the metagame. So we're gonna change over to WoW meta. We're gonna kind of look at some of the DPS. It's kind of the last thing that we have to talk about this week. This is more of just like a meta overview kind of episode, talking about this week in Mythic Plus, because honestly, the most popular course of discussion this week was Disc Priest and whether or not it's supposed to get nerfed and whether or not it will get nerfed. So for DPS, kind of looking at this again, like I was saying, we are seeing kind of one composition being ran, especially if you look at the front page. It's mostly just this one singular composition that is being ran. But whenever you go and start looking at, high keys and large, we do have a bunch of specializations that are peppered into this A tier that are actually quite strong with Enhancement Shaman, Ret, Pally, Arms Warrior, Assassination Rogue, Feral Druid. You even have like Havoc Demon Hunter down B tier, which I swear that spec is good. The priority damage that is provided by that, if you know what to look at, it's pretty undeniably strong. If you're looking at just purely overall, of course, it's not going to be as good. But, you have all these specializations down in A tier that I think are all pretty good specializations. For ranged DPS, I think that Dev Evoker probably deserves to be up in A, but then, the rest of this kind of makes sense where it's Bounce Root and Fire at the top of the podium. And then you have Ellie, Demo, MM Hunter. MM Hunter is actually a specialization that is pretty good on a dungeon-by-dungeon basis, where if every dungeon was like, Theater of Pain, MM would be kind of insane, but every dungeon is not Theater of Pain, and so the target capping kind of comes to hurt them, especially in these large target cap pulls. But whenever you kind of look at people like Banchers or like Love or like Annie from China, some of these hunters are actually able to make it work even in dungeons that aren't necessarily Theater of Pain. So MM is starting to kind of rise, especially since it's received, I want to say it's like 2 or 3 buffs on the patch. So specialization that is getting better as time is going on and people are continuing to play around with it a little bit more. Dev Evoker also excellent if you're looking for a good Lust DPS. Dev does high amounts of overall. And the Firestorm build was not something that people really had on their radar. People thought that they were still just going to play Mass Disintegrate in Mythic Plus. But that's kind of emerged as something that has been pretty popular just in general. Although we are kind of on the horizon for 11.1.5. I think that a couple of things are going to change with that. First and foremost, I think we're going to have Corruptions that are coming out. Corruptions aren't the largest damage gain, but I think that they're somewhere sitting around like 0.5% to 1% damage gain. There's one, I think, Void Ritual that's sitting around 3%, but since none of the rest of them are around 3%, I think that Void Ritual is probably likely to receive a nerf. It's attached to a Helm enchant, but with things like Cersei Circlet and like Onyx Amulet, we've seen this in the past where things that aren't exactly this massive damage gain still give you about a key level to a key level, half a key level in terms of just leeway, in terms of what dungeons you're doing. We're also continuing to kind of see dungeon levels go up over time, where I think every dungeon was done on an 18 at minimum this week, and then I think we had 2 dungeons that were done on a 19, which were of course Dark Flame Cleft and the Motherlode. I did some VOD reviews of those on the channel if you're looking for that kind of content, so you can go check that out. But yeah, that's kind of what we've been seeing here. I kind of am expecting to see, especially in like the TGP, people be able to push up as high as maybe even like 22s, 23s. On the next patch, you know, it maybe could go up to as high as even like a 24, especially if you're getting like that corruption, you're getting that half key level. But that's kind of what's moving into the couple weeks in the future, where that's probably like a month from now, we're going to be kind of talking about those things. But yeah, that's basically it. Again, submit your VODs for review for Mondays if you're looking for some strategy review and trying to learn how to get better as a group. Beyond that, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week, and I hope that you guys continue to get IO and continue to push for your goals for this season. And that was this week in Mythic Plus. Goodbye.